This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Good evening and welcome to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry-Lawson, and I'm coming to you from the haunted Marsh Landing restaurant in beautiful Fellsmere, Florida, in what my opinion is one of the most haunted spots in the east central coast of Florida. I'd like to invite you to join my guests and I as we stake out the paranormal world in an effort to provide a jury of our peers, which is you, with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the world of the paranormal exists. Now, the paranormal extends far beyond what many of us feel like ghosts and ghost hunting. It involves also the world of cryptozoology, such as Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster. It involves UFOs. And in our program, we're going to spend some time searching out the answers, collecting the evidence, preserving the evidence, then presenting that evidence, once again to you, a jury of our peers. As a cop for over 36 years, most of the time as a detective, I've spent my entire life putting cases together, meticulously gathering and preserving evidence. That's my vision for the field of paranormal research and study, to create that foundation, to create that belief and that understanding that gathering evidence, preserving it, and proper presentation is how we are going to put our case forward. With that, I'm very, very excited to introduce to you my very, very first guest, a dear friend and truly a leader in the world of paranormal research, Maria-Schmidt. Maria is the founder and president of Haunted Juries. She has inspired community collaboration within the paranormal field to enhance public awareness for the science of paranormal investigation within the realm of parapsychology studies. High in Maria's focus with the work she applies is historical preservation, declaring a haunting is history seeking to be heard. As a registered nurse, her experience with life after death were heightened working in the gerontology and the death and dying stages of life. Later, as an operator of one of the most haunted inns in Florida, her curiosity for scientific approaches were further intensified. With enthusiasm and relentlessness to drive this research, the mystery with methodical best practices, she commissioned the formal proclamation for the National Ghost Hunting Day and its associated world's largest ghost hunt event, which occurred this last October. From here, she joined forces with seasoned para-scientist Brian Cano to offer this global base of investigators as scientific contributors to the largest collective conscious experiment ever documented, named The Bridge. Maria, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. That sounds so lovely coming out of somebody else. I
well,
am
it's all
honored
true.
to be here with you.
Well,
yeah,
I'm absolutely excited.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely excited to have you here to share all your experiences, what you've gone through, what you've done, what you're doing in the world of paranormal research and investigation. So, if you could tell us, how did you get into this field? What brought you into the world of paranormal research?
Just like you mentioned, you serving as a law enforcement, I'm sure you were put in situations where things could not be explained. The same goes with in the nursing field. We work a lot with within properties that were inhabited by those that have passed on. We worked a lot with death and dying, and actually seeing people pass to the next dimension. So, as nurses, we bring a lot of stories that sort of question or stimulate the mind and saying, what happens after we take our last breath? Mm-hmm. And that's where it all started. I was humbled in being involved with those in the later stages of life. A lot of them with dementia disorders, and I think their openness and their lack of defense mechanisms made them even more interesting to follow and to analyze some of the behaviors as they were dying and even after they died. So that was further intensified when my husband and I started operating a very, very haunted inn. And once appeared at Ghost Hunters back in 2008, where we just could not ignore evidence that just kept occurring, not just to us, but to others. So I came in as a novice that was presented with a lot of stories, a lot of experiences that came out of just living our day-to-day lives. But later, when we were sophisticated into the roles of innkeeping a most haunted inn, we became a little bit more sophisticated in some of the techniques that we used.
Great.
And that's where we came in. Mm-hmm.
Terrific. Well, Maria, we're going to need to take a break here right now. This is Larry Lawson, your host of Paranormal Stakeout. We'll be back to you in just a few moments after these few brief messages. Visit us at www.paranormalstakeout.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying.
Welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, and with us tonight we have Maria-Schmidt, owner and operator of Haunted Journeys, seasoned paranormal investigator. And welcome back, Maria. We've got so much more to go over tonight. You were instrumental, if not the genius behind an operation called National Ghost Hunting Day, which spun off the world's largest ghost hunt, which I can proudly say that my group and I were involved with just this last October. I'd like to know what it was, what was your inspiration behind it, and how did you get that off the ground? I mean, you literally had groups from all over this world conducting simultaneous paranormal investigations, and you had a mechanism with which to collect the evidence from all of them at the same time. It was very, very exciting, not to mention groundbreaking. So share with us, how did that go? What was your inspiration?
Well, you know, as I mentioned before, operating a haunted inn, we got exposed to many other ghost hunters, whether they were very sophisticated, some were just did on a very sparing level, but they all had a great interest. And one thing I did notice, or my husband and I did notice, that there wasn't a lot of internal organization. There was not an industry inspiration or cohesiveness. And therefore, that created lots of walls between the community. No one knew what an expert was. No one wanted to be an expert. Those that were considered themselves experts were disregarded by others. So there was a lack of consistency, unity, cohesiveness, and even cooperation.
And would you also agree that in our field there tends to be a lack of cohesion between groups, sharing of information? Do you find that happening?
Absolutely. In fact, we started a company called Haunted Journeys, which basically facilitates the discoveries and explorations of haunted places among all types of levels, but specifically the novice. Because we were once novice, we never knew we could go visit haunted places and discover them. We never knew there were equipments that we can use, or even these paranormal groups that existed out there. Mm-hmm. So that with that intention, we said, well, let's bring all this together to celebrate the commission of Haunted Journeys and the inception of Haunted Journeys. But what we found in going up to into a Paracon up in Salem, we met the folks from Paranormal Database. and Michael Diamond, spoke to him directly, and I said, what a wonderful idea of putting a database out there where ghost hunters can contribute and be a significant resource of specific evidence in hauntings throughout the world, essentially. And I think your bank is just going crazy as far as the storage of all these of all this data. And I was surprised when he said, "No, Maria, no one is cooperating. No one wants to contribute the evidence because they're afraid that others will
take the glory, perhaps."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there was a lot of competition where folks did not want to share their little finds and their what could be incredible evidence that would lead to, incredible, conclusions, because they were all afraid of being exploited or being ridiculed or whatever it was.
Well, in law enforcement, we had the same problem for many years. It's my case. I don't want anybody else to get the glory or whatever. And fortunately, in our business, we're beginning to transcend that. And that would be my vision, and it sounds like it's yours too, that we get past that point and we all share in the documentation and the facts found from the evidence we've gathered.
Exactly. So one of the things I said, when I said, what is it that we can put together that can create this harmony, can create this collaboration of information? And two things that I found that were, actually three things that were very important that there was no evidence of existence. One of them is having a common objective, a common goal. The second person is to have a purpose of what we're doing for the betterment of the community within which we all existed. And the third thing that we all needed was to celebrate what we are about, to celebrate the industry, to escalate it, and make the public aware of who we are with that harmony of celebration.
Could not agree with you more.
With those three platforms, we actually said, what we need is National Ghost Hunting Day, which didn't exist. And so we went over and spoke and got in front of, I said, well, we need a platform, a solid, reputable, and well-celebrated platform to launch this off with. There's nothing new of haunted journeys. We are just not well known. And so we went to the folks of Scarefest, including Patty Starr, who is a leader in innovation within the paranormal field. She absolutely loved the idea and felt honored, and as we did, to be the platform for this thing to be launched off. We chose the weekend of the Scarefest, which was very appropriate. The last weekend of September, or the first weekend of September, whatever allows more of the calendar month before Halloween, to be the National Ghost Hunting Day. We got it certified by the Commission at National Ghost Hunting Day Organization, and it's there. Alongside National Peanut Butter Day and National Nurses Week, we're there, National Ghost Hunting Day.
And that was a tremendous accomplishment for you, and we were very, very proud. The group that I'm affiliated with, the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation, we were very, very proud to be involved in that. Let me ask you this question, and I couldn't agree with you more about the need for unity and the need for standardization. In your business, in the nursing field as well as the law enforcement field, we have to go through trainings and certifications in order to be considered skilled. Do you think that type of direction would help those in the paranormal field, some standardized training, standardized collection of evidence procedures? Do you believe that those types of things would assist us in meeting that goal of being recognized?
I absolutely do. What you're speaking of is establishing and maintaining and even optimizing best practices. Best practices should be the foundation of any skill that we perform, any service that we perform, because best practices is based on obtaining a final goal that is beneficial to the work that's being done. It's not self-serving. It doesn't have an agenda, but only to define the quality of outcomes that we want in the work that we do.
Absolutely.
The problem that we found that I have found in the paranormal community is that we're not very welcoming in defining experts or expertise. Everyone has created their own algorithm and their own formula
Exactly.
for investigation, and they're very protective about that. They're very almost proprietary about what they do.
Yeah,
sometimes
in fact,
to the effect that they sort of not endorse or make fun of other types of practices that are different than theirs.
and that's interesting. I actually got asked not too long ago by an individual, what makes you an expert in the field? I mean, what is an expert in the paranormal field? Well, that was a tough question to answer because that has not actually been established yet when you think about it, as far as an official accreditation or title. What does make an expert in the paranormal field? And then I just saw another interesting thing on the internet not too long ago. It was about cyberbullying. People that maybe don't think that that they like what you've come up with, or they don't like how you did it, so they will criticize. Well, that doesn't accomplish anything.
Yeah, it builds the walls. And one of the things or one of the industries, I should say, that is struggled a lot of the battles that we are seeing within the paranormal groups, it's the world of psychology. As you know, when even Sigmund Freud, when he started, applying his theories and behavior modification theories, he was made fun of, and people would discredit him because, again, psychology doesn't have the organic presentation of a normal body disease pathology. So no one can measure schizophrenia. There's no way you can do it except for looking and feeling and hearing the emotions of that person. Well, it's the same thing in paranormal studies. How do you measure it? You don't. You don't have an X-ray. You don't have a blood test. You'll have EVPs perhaps, but those things are can be debunked or made up. And
do you feel though that the technology is improving on a regular basis, that perhaps someday those types of instruments will become more specific measurements of evidence? I mean, do you think that's possible?
I don't know, and I'm not an expert enough to know that. I do know that some of the most primitive methods of data collection, i.e. the recorder, i.e. the sensations that we feel, the things that we hear, the things that we see, the smell, the aromas that we smell, are things that you can't capture, but are the most impressionable.
Right.
You see.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question: certain atmospheric or solar type of events occurring when paranormal activity is high, and then we're specifically talking about ghost investigations, spiritual investigations here, but things like the full moon or sunspots being at a certain level, and that being correlated with activity. Do you think that would help quantify evidence at all?
There is no doubt that when there are atmospheric or energy changes in the world, it affects not just the paranormal world, but even the organic world, even the psychiatric world. It does affect our energies that are holistically presented in our body. So yes, absolutely.
Good.
But
We have to take a break.
Yeah.
We have to take a break here. I love this conversation. I want to keep it going, but we're going to take a break. This is Larry Lawson, your host of Paranormal Stakeout. www.paranormalstakeout.com. We'll be back to you in a moment after this short message.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at...
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying.
And welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout with your host, Larry Lawson. And we have Maria-Schmidt back with us. And Maria, we were having a great conversation. You were really enlightening us with the National Ghost Hunting Days events. What I'd like to know is what sort of surprises, or did you have any surprises that came to light during the National Ghost Hunting Days experiment?
Well, we anticipated that there'd be some surprises because nothing of this magnitude was ever done. So we're not sure what direction it would take us. What was a true surprise was that we had a person that involved in the experiment in a different mode. He actually was testing what they call random number generators with units placed strategically across the globe. Mm-hmm. And essentially what that does is measure any kind of atmospheric energy shifts. He normally did it when there was like humongous big events, like during the presidential debates. And when everybody was focused on the debates, he noticed that there were changes because everybody was thinking about the same thing, listening to the same thing in a very intense, concentrated way. Well, he wanted to use that same type of theoretical thinking and apply it to our experiment. So without even knowing, he went ahead and collected the data from 18 strategically decision or random number generator units around the world and found that even though it wasn't an outstanding shift like the presidential debate did, but it was impressionable enough to know that there was something that happened.
Yeah, and I've had the ability to look at his writing on this. It was quite interesting. It was So is this random number generation, the shift? What is it saying, that the energy produced by the individuals? What exactly is that?
What it does is it's a measure of probability. So to make it very almost understandable, is almost like a flip of a coin. With a flip of a coin, you can expect a 50% chance of being heads, another 50% being tails. And that's the normal process when there's stability in the energetic atmosphere. When there's any kind of changes where intensified collaborative behavior is being demonstrated, he found that there are shifts in those probabilities. Well, in the case of the world's largest ghost hunt, he found that, yes, indeed, there was more of a tail as opposed to the heads, all against the laws of probability.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he's definitely interested in joining us at a higher level in 2017. But it just presents another type of very, concrete data that has no room for subjectivity. It's hard data based on scientific measurements.
And you and I have talked a lot about the importance of scientific measurements in this field, and I'm very interested to find out where this entire aspect is going to fit into the field. I'm anxious to see what kind of hard evidence he could come up with.
Yes.
So I may have to get him on the show. I think I'd like to hear more from him. His article was very interesting.
Yes.
With this in mind, is this one of the you talked about having him involved in next year's event? What are some of the enhancements that you see developing for the next National Ghost Hunt Day event?
What we're decided within our core, and after interviewing a lot of the participants, is that expanding it is not going to be necessarily an improvement, but refining the process that is being used by all the teams, so that there's more of a synchrony and more of a harmony, and it's more a purposeful duplication from each team, between each team. I think that's extremely important because when you measure, again, scientific data, you got to decrease your variables. You got to try to eliminate differences that might offset the common measurement. So we're hoping that Brian and Michael Diamond and the Paranormal Database team will actually even mature the style that this is being delivered and the intensity of training in preparation for the event. That was one piece. We prepared spiritually the properties, where we recommended that the light workers go in and prepare the energies for the event, but we did not prepare the participants. So there was a lack of, perhaps a little bit of lack of commonality of technique and process.
And you and I discussed that a few days ago, in fact, and that's perhaps creating an opportunity for folks that want to enter the field to receive some training prior to the event, so that when they join, they're going to be able to contribute more. And I think that's I'm very excited about that opportunity. I
think education and training and preparation of that sort is what differentiates an entertainment process versus an experimental process, an investigation process. We've gotten to the point, like initially it perhaps was taken off as an entertainment process to sort of, showcase the skills of the paranormal investigator. But when Brian Cano got involved with our experiment, then it became a more formal investigative and experimental mode, and then we were trying to avoid the entertainment piece of it.
Sure.
And I think that's a plus for the direction of the day.
Well, like every new event, every new experiment and journey, there's going to be changes that are going to take place, enhancement, things are going to get better. So I'm really looking forward to next year and the year after that as this whole process improves. You and I have spent some time also talking about paranormal unity, and that's unity within the ranks of researchers and investigators. Maria, what do you see as the realities of paranormal unity?
I've had a change of heart of what my goal is, and I think what I'd like to see us try to obtain, as opposed to paranormal unity, is paranormal collaboration, and there's a big difference. When you're unified, you lose a little bit of the autonomy, a little bit of the personality of the team. You become unified under one common goal and one common standard and one common objective. Whereas collaboration is that we work together towards that goal in synchrony to the talents and the conditions that are in that property. It also is not as when you collaborate, is not as perhaps threatening as a unity. There seems to have been a lot of misuse in the word of paranormal unity, and unfortunately also a level of disregard for it, almost ridicule. So I think if we introduce collaboration as an option, it will be a little bit more digestible, a little bit more achievable for our community.
Well, I could kind of see your point with that, although I do think unity and collaboration can be one and the same. I do like your point. But wouldn't you agree that whether it's collaboration or unity, that we need to reach some level of standardization in how we conduct our investigations? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Standardization with best practices.
Absolutely.
And maybe from that we grow into, formal training programs that are reaching towards certification, and creating an identification of these best practices and conditions that have to be met. So it's not just buying a T-shirt and getting a black T-shirt and getting a K2 meter that makes you a paranormal investigator and looking at 4 or 5 episodes of Ghost Adventures. That's not, unfortunately, that's sometimes what it has taken to prepare teams to go out there. That's phenomenal that enthusiasm is there and they want to participate in that, but they've got to perhaps explore to get a little more sophistication, a little bit more an advantage in using some of these best practices that have to be established in these spaces.
Absolutely. And I think a lot the shows, and I've met some of those folks, they're great folks, sincere investigators. And granted, there's the entertainment value with the shows, but I also think they've been valuable in bringing the field to the public, to the average person.
Yes.
And in that sense, I think they've been super helpful. And I think that needs to continue in order to get people into the field. And it's like anything else. When folks get interested and they begin to find a genuine, deep interest in it, then their training and their desire to get better becomes more intense. And so, I think there's been a lot of positives from the shows. And I look forward to seeing more of them. So, let me ask you this question too. What do you see as the goal of your organization, National Ghost Hunting Day? What is the big goal for you?
We broke down into 5 goals, and one was public education. Another one was paranormal unity/collaboration. A third one is very, very dear to my heart, and that's historical preservation. And that's another expectation that we will perhaps witness a change in the 2017 model where we weren't as driven by selecting historically at-risk sites, whereas now we're in 2017, we're going to be very, very specific in selecting teams that will support a historical site that is at risk of being lost.
Absolutely.
So I think that will be the drive in the site selections. So we're not just going to respond to a team that wants to be part of it, that's fine, but we would like to perhaps motivate them to select one of these treasures that we're losing out there.
Terrific. We've got to prepare for our final break here, Maria.
Okay.
But we're going to get back to this. I want to talk a little bit more about history and paranormal investigations in just a minute as we go into our break. And this is Larry Lawson, your host of Paranormal Stakeout, and we'll be back in just a few minutes after these important messages.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry-Lawson, and we have with us tonight Maria-Schmidt. We've had this conversation continues to get better as we go, Maria. You just brought up something really interesting and something that's very, very near and dear to my heart, and that's the history aspect to paranormal investigations. And folks, I don't think really realize the connection between history and that intense interest in history and how it works with the world of paranormal research and investigation. In our town of Fellsmere, for example, the history, the rich history of our town goes hand in hand with the work that we're doing there in paranormal research. And you and I feel the same way, don't we?
We do. Sometimes introducing the aspect of the paranormal investigation to these historical sites has been their turnaround in preservation efforts. It's so much easier and more digestible to get folks to come out and listen to the history of that property through a good ghost story. It just sells better, and it's very effective in raising the funds that they need for their efforts.
Absolutely, and in fact, we've got several spots in Florida. The Jasper County Jail, the county jail in Jasper, Florida, comes to mind. I'm sure you're familiar with it, the work that they've done there. But the historical aspect of our work oftentimes goes unnoticed, and I think that's an absolute shame. The things that we've discovered, once again talking about Fellsmere, in going into the history of the town and how it connects with some of the evidence that we've uncovered, has been pretty phenomenal.
Yes.
So,
yes. When you can validate history through the evidence that is obtained through a paranormal investigation, it's a thrill ride. It's better than finding documents almost, because you're hearing the history through that haunting. It's amazing.
Yeah, and we are actually doing a lot of work with our local historical society with that, and that's been quite fun. Now, moving on to, and we've talked a little bit about evidence, and and how important it was for you during the National Ghost Hunting Day. Tell me, in your opinion, the collection of evidence, its presentation, and preservation, how does that fit into your vision of putting our field forward? How does that fit into your view?
I think all the aspects and all the goals that we present on National Ghost Hunting Days are the foundations of a respectable industry, an industry that brings education forth, does scientific research, helps in preservation efforts, and perhaps does the fundraising in order to help the community. All these aspects that we introduce through the National Ghost Hunting Day are very notable, are very, very impressionable, and perhaps it will help sell what we do to the common to the common people. We're not just a ghost hunting show that that's chasing demons around or all these things, and we're actually putting a little respect and dignity into the work that we do. So we're hoping that with National Ghost Hunting Day, we can present that tale and all the significance that we do as contributions. Everything that happens on National Ghost Hunting Day happens every single week with some team somewhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not ever presented to the world. It's never given the notice and the acknowledgement that it deserves.
Well, I got to give a little plug to your other organization, Haunted Travels USA, Haunted Journeys. Tell me how that whole organization fits into this vision also.
Well, as innkeepers, we knew that there were visitors that came to the inn to explore. They were somewhat giddy, they were new, they were novice, they weren't sure what they were doing. They knew that perhaps they watched a couple of episodes of Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters, and they knew that our property, or they had heard our property was haunted. So they came in kind of squeamish. They didn't have black T-shirts, they didn't have K2 meters. They were just curious. And we found that there was a lot more people out there that want to explore but needed permission to explore. And we provided them the equipment, and they sat down during a couple of EVP sessions, and you could watch those jaws drop, and it was just amazing. It was amazing. So we started saying, well, there's a lot of properties like ours. There's a lot of properties that need to be recognized, if not for fiscal revenue growth, because we all need that. Our building was 120 years old, and we needed lots of updating, and we found that it brought in extra revenue that we needed for the upkeep. But it's a way to every time I sat down with a session with our guests, I told them the history. I told them the history of the house and how the Reinauers were so influential in the mercantile business here in North Central Florida. So, it was a lesson being told. I said, well, there's a lot more properties than us. And we started digging, and we started collecting a database. So Haunted Journeys is basically a reference website that actually allows you to go through areas and locations and complete an itinerary of travel while discovering haunted and mysterious places. With that, we added then the ghost tours. Because ghost tours, we've got to give them a little credit. They really do help the community. They share
they do.
Along the trail. Exactly. They share the history of the locations. So they're an integral part of the mysterious tourism industry. And on top of that, then there are the events that also need to be. And there really wasn't any one central place that had a large inventory of events that are held across the nation. So we plan on March 1st will be the rollout of our new robust website, which will be Haunted Journeys. And we're hoping that as it interfaces with the app, it will give an opportunity for the novice paranormal enthusiast to discover some of these places.
And I really want to encourage everybody, if they get a chance, to check out your website. And in just a second here, I'm going to want you to give your website so that everybody can go check it out, because it's really a fantastic operation you have going there. In fact, why don't you do that now? What is your website? How can they find you on the web?
Right now, our website is in beta format, and it's actually hauntedtravelsusa.com. Later on, you can always go there and subscribe as a member, download our app, and that has a lot of energy in it. It's got all the events that are being held across the nation. It's an interactive app where you can find the locations all around you. So later on, the hauntedtravelsusa.com in March, in the beginning of March, will blend into our formal website, which will be hauntedjourneys.com.
Excellent. In fact, I hope we have an event going on in Fellsmere, January 27th, 28th, and 29th. We've got some.
Get in my app. Absolutely.
I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there, Maria, because this is going to be an event that we're going to be doing a lot of what we've talked about with the public and introducing them to this field. But there'll also be a lot of teams there. We're calling it a para-unity event. We can maybe call it para-collaboration, but definitely a unity event for different groups to come from all over the state and the country. But it's also going to be open to the public, and anybody that's in our area of Fellsmere last of January, 27th, 28th, or 29th, I'd like to invite you to come on down, check our website out, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But I'm definitely going to get it on Haunted Journeys, Miss Maria.
Yes. And, this is a perfect opportunity for us to collaborate with the teams. We want the team to be a part of Haunted Journeys because, again, we're going to be working with Paranormal Database. And so if Fellsmere has, some evidence that they want to post about certain historical sites there, we can attach the evidence there as well and give credit to the team that was part in bringing out that evidence. So it's going to be a very collaborative, a very robust website that will engage all aspects of the haunted. We don't want to do anything without dignity and without the respect to the actual industry as it is deserved.
Yeah, and it's going to be exciting. And once again, I want to encourage all of my guests out there. Go ahead and give them your website address again one more time.
It's hauntedtravelsusa.com.
Want to encourage all of you out there to check that out.
Thank you.
So it's been really an exciting time talking with you tonight. I'm certainly looking. Do we have a date for next October yet?
We sure do. It's actually going to be on September 30th. because it coincides with Scarefest, which will serve as one of our command centers.
Okay.
We may be expanding a little bit of the command center strategy as well. That's all being formulated as we speak. But it's on
Maria?
September 30th. Mm-hmm.
Great. I'm catching the end of the show music, so I want to thank you so much for being my guest. Thank all of you for listening. This is Larry Lawson, your host, Paranormal Stakeout. Looking forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks for joining us. Signing off.